Okay, so we're going to begin right now. So we'll start off with introduction. So thank you guys so much for coming, and we're going to introduce each individual panelist. And yeah, so they'll be providing just a short introduction of who they are and what they do. So first up is Sydney Lee. He went to Harvard and is a member of the Lynbrook class of 2015.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here today. I don't know if any of you know me. I went to Harvard, graduated in 2019 after graduating from Lynbrook in 2015. Currently working at McKinsey, and I'm happy to kind of answer your questions as they come through.
Our second panelist is Daisy Nee, who currently attends Pomona College and was a member of the Lynbrook class of 2016.
Yeah, actually graduated in 2017. I'm a rising senior. Sorry, that's actually have to get used to saying that. Yeah, but I go to Pomona. That's a small liberal arts college down in Southern California. I'm a PPE major. Happy to answer any questions today.
So our third panelist is Yi Chen. She goes to U Chicago and was a member of the Lynbrook class of 2018.
Hi guys. Okay, sorry. Hi guys, I'm Yi Chen. I currently go to U Chicago. I'm a second year. I'm studying computer science and statistics, and I was the MUN president during the 2017 to 2018 school year.
Our next panelist is Amol Singh. He goes to Stanford and was a member of the Lynbrook class of 2019.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm a first year at Stanford, just finishing up my first year here. I'm studying CS and Bio, and I was a MUN president during the 2018 and 2019 school year.
Our next speaker is Indali Bora. She currently goes to American University in Washington, D.C. and was a member of the class of 2019.
Hi everyone, so I go to American University. I'm planning to do a 4-year BA/MA program for data science and political science, and I was the MUN co-president for 2018 to 2019 school year.
Our next panelist is Noella Bay. She currently goes to UCLA and was a member of the Lynbrook class of 2019.
Hi everyone, so I'm Noella. I'm finishing up my first year at UCLA as an economics and IDS major, and I served as the secretary/director of outreach last year.
Our next panelist is JoJo. She currently goes to UC Berkeley and was a member of the 2019 class.
Hey guys, I'm JoJo and I'm a freshman at UC Berkeley studying probably computer science and maybe econ. But yes, I was in MUN my 4 years of high school.
Our next panelist is Maya. She is going to be attending MIT in the fall and is a member of the class of 2020.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be here. So next year I'll be going to MIT studying an interdisciplinary major for CS, data science, and econ. I did MUN the past 4 years and served as president the last year.
Our next panelist is Sanjana. She's going to be attending UCSD in the fall and is a member of the class of 2020.
Hey guys, I'm Sanjana and I'll be going to UCSD majoring in global health and minoring in CocSci. And I was in MUN for 4 years and served as VP of logistics this past year.
Our next panelist is Vibhav. He will be attending USC in the fall and is a member of the class of 2020.
Hey, Vibhav, you're muted.
Thank you, Larry. Hi guys, I'm Vibhav, and as Ian said, I'll be going to USC as a freshman next year, and I'm planning on majoring in global health, which I actually got into because of different committees that I joined and participated in MUN, and I've been a member since sophomore year and was VP last year, so excited to hear what kind of questions you guys have.
Our final panelist is Larry Peng. He is going to be attending UIUC in the fall and is a member of the Lynbrook class of 2020.
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'll be attending UIUC in the fall, like Ian said. I'll be majoring in CS plus economics, and I plan to minor in statistics as well. Yeah, so I look forward to hearing your questions.
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll be moving into our pre-written questions portion. So we had many people submit questions before this event that we sent out through a Google form. So we'll be going through those questions and then, yeah. So the first question is, what do you think extremely impacted your application and acceptance into college? And what do you think colleges look for? Any of the panelists can answer this question.
I think colleges don't look for anything specific. Like when they say they're looking for, they're looking at all different things. I think they really mean it. I think it matters more that throughout high school, you're like trying to actually find what you're passionate about. At least that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'll go, I guess. If you're just coming to Lynbrook, I'd take the first year to kind of explore different clubs. That's what I did. Just see what's out there, because Lynbrook has a lot. And don't think that you have to commit to all 10 clubs you join for all 4 years, because realistically, that's not going to happen. What colleges want to see is that you take risks, that you join clubs that maybe you wouldn't have before, that you expanded your comfort zone a little. And so I think stick to a couple of things that you really like, that you're passionate about, and take a risk on something else. And that'll show colleges that you're kind of a good fit for their environment and that you're willing to try new things once you get there.
Yeah, so our next question is, how did you develop a really strong relationship with teachers to get good letters of recommendation? And how do you recommend a student to stand out? And this is directed toward Larry and Sanjana.
So I guess something that people should keep in mind is that many teachers at Lynbrook have been writing rec letters for many, many years. And if you approach them with that intent, sort of be disingenuous about it, they can 9 out of 10 times tell. I guess my advice is just to be genuinely interested in a topic and just express that interest to the teacher through questions, through engagement, during tutorial, sort of stand out, and I guess not just look for a rec letter, but look for additional guidance to exploring a subject or a topic.
Yeah, I agree. And also, there are so many opportunities outside of the classroom as well. Like, even if you finished your year strong with that teacher, you can always go back and TA for them. That's what I did. And then, like, also meet them after school or something for, like, other clubs or events that you're, like, that align with the interests of both the teacher and the student.
And yeah, I'm just gonna like add on to that, just a really quick tip. So I did also a science fair project, and I was able to gain a really strong relationship with one of my teachers because he taught me in junior year, and I was able to work with him outside of class. So that led to a good rec letter as well.
Yeah, so our next question is, what clubs and extracurricular activities did you participate in? And this is directed toward Vibhav and Amol.
I guess I can go first. So in freshman year, I tried robotics and it wasn't for me. One thing you should know if you go and do robotics is unless you're doing CS, then freshman year, there's not much to do. It's more like an observe and learn kind of situation. And then as you rise up the ranks through sophomore and junior year, then it becomes like a really big time investment, especially in the spring, because that's when their build season is. I also did an engineering club for 2 years, and then I was a president of this club called CardioMed, which dealt with heart-related issues and surgery. And in my senior year, I was elected a class officer, and so I took charge of things like homecoming, powder puff rallies, all sorts of events that you would see throughout your years at Lynbrook. And I also joined mock trial in my senior year, and that is also a really large time commitment. What I learned from mock trial and MUN together is how to be an impactful speaker, because they both teach different speaking styles. So, well, MUN taught me how to be a good people person and work with people like one-on-one and in larger groups. Mock trial taught me how to speak powerfully, and I think that really helped me out in MUN and took me to where I am today.
Yeah, so for me within school, I was in several clubs with Vibhav as well, in CardioMed and HEI, and then I participated in sports for a couple of years. So I did play basketball and I ran cross country. And then I also was like a science department coordinator within Lynbrook. But outside of school, I was really active in research, received like several grants in that area. And then I also received some grants to work with nonprofits, specifically in mental health in the South Asian community. So that's kind of encompassing all of my extracurriculars outside of school as well.
Yeah. So our next question is, when should we start looking for scholarships? And I think this is directed towards just any speaker.
So I think most scholarships, they normally have like a similar cycle to like college applications. So a lot of the major ones will release around the same time. So you know, congruently, like as you're working on college apps, a lot of the content you can reuse and submit to scholarship applications, and a lot of the deadlines do end up having to be in like the first semester of your senior year, especially for the larger scholarships. So that's definitely when you should start keeping your eyes open for them.
Yeah, so our next question is, how do you balance academic excellence, clubs, and social aspects of the high school experience? And I think this is targeted towards Sydney and Amol.
I can take a stab at that. This one first. I think there are 3 ways of thinking about balance in high school. 3 ways you can kind of make the decision about what you want to get involved in, what you want to kind of stay away from. The first is, how do you make a decision strategically, right? I think with any decision you make, you're going to make trade-offs in terms of the time you spend, maybe the relationships you're about to develop, the ways you can kind of develop yourself as a person in preparation for college. And I think having your priorities in order before you make that decision is really important, while also recognizing the fact that choosing one means you won't be able to choose the other. The second is the attitude you bring. I think Lynbrook kind of has a culture that doesn't really embrace failure, right? I think we receive a lot of pressure from our parents, our teachers, our peers to perform at a very high level. And I think such a huge part of doing well in high school and also preparing for college is learning to embrace failure. As some of you know, I did Model UN throughout my 4 years at Lynbrook, but I was also part of student council as a class officer for 2 of those years. I lost my election in junior year for class officer, and that was actually one of the best things I think that had happened to me, because it allowed me to kind of focus more time in Model UN, shift my focus away from being interested in politics to international relations, and really do a lot for a club that I was passionate about, and where I knew that I could make the maximal impact. So embracing failure is a key aspect of that. And I think the last thing to think about is, what do you want to accomplish? And this is something that can change as you move through your time at Lynbrook. But having a goal in mind is a really good way of defining your priorities and making sure that whatever happens, you can still push through and succeed.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything Sydney has said. One thing that I would echo is that, you know, finding specifically what you enjoy and then devoting like as much time as you can to that, instead of being, you know, spread thin over several things. Another kind of tangible thing that I'd like to mention is that, like, during high school, oftentimes I think kids like waste their weekends in a sense. And so I think that that's definitely one of like the most prime times in terms of like being able to balance workload, is that you divide your weekend into like 7 sections. So you have 3 sections each Saturday and Sunday, and then 1 section, which is like your Friday evening, and then like allocating time towards each allocating work and like what you need to do towards each section, and also like allocating time for relaxation as well. So that's just a tangible technique that you guys can use, that I've used, and has been really helpful.
Yeah, so our next question is, approximately how long did you study every day, including the weekends? And then if you have any like test taking tips, especially for like finals. And this is targeted toward Yishan.
I would say that it varies a lot throughout the years, especially due to like the different teachers, the different classes. Just to give some background about me, I did try to take the classes that were more advanced, because I wanted to see like if I could actually achieve as much as I possibly could in high school. I would say like around every day I would spend 2 hours on homework and like preparing for tests. And for finals, for every class, I basically went in with the same mentality. My general philosophy, honestly, in life as well, is just to like grind it out. I used to get pretty severe test taking anxiety. So in practice, I would just try to do every single practice problem available, or for classes without like tangible questions, I would take notes like 3 times. First, like thorough notes of the textbook, and then summarize my own notes, and then rephrase those notes into questions and then answer them. But I would say, like, in general, you should just study as much as you feel comfortable with, but not necessarily like overexert yourself in any way.
Another thing I would add to that is to not forget to leverage the resources around you, right? Like we have tutorial periods that are extremely useful to kind of go and approach teachers when you have questions, to review the concepts you've learned, to kind of use them as your tutor for that time. So don't kind of forsake the people around you as you kind of go hard pounding at these concepts.
Yeah, our next question is, when and how did you develop a college list? This is targeted toward Noella and Dolly.
Yeah, so I started developing my college list the summer before senior year, and I finalized it before senior year actually began. But I guess that's not to say that I wasn't thinking about which colleges I'm interested in or want to apply to before that point. So the summer before senior year, I actually went over to the East Coast with the main purpose of touring colleges. And I guess I was also lucky enough to have visited a lot of college campuses before that point through MUN conferences as such. In fact, I was able to go to Columbia University my sophomore year through an MUN conference, so that was really nice. I would definitely encourage visiting college campuses if that's a viable option for you, but it's definitely not necessary. I just feel like it's a lot easier for you to envision what it would be like to be a student there when you're physically able to step foot on campus. I guess some factors I took into consideration when applying was geography, school culture, private school versus public school, quarter versus semester system, the different programs or majors offered, and just determining which schools are your reach, target, and safety schools. For me, I didn't apply to many schools because I found it more effective to allot more time and attention to each individual application and essay as opposed to just using the shotgun method. And a lot of for my college list, a lot of the colleges consisted of UCs because first of all, there's that in-state tuition benefit, and the UC application is just one as opposed to applying to each individual college.
I think adding on to that, my approach is also really similar. Before senior year started, I pretty much had a list set. I also, through my conferences, was able to talk to a lot of students who go to the college at the time, and as a result, I was able to hear more of their unbiased opinion about their experience there. So I know that it can be hard, especially with the circumstances we're at right now, to do visits, but if you can get in contact with a student that goes to that university that you're interested in or has gone there, it would be really helpful to get that extra insight. I would say that it's really important to consider different factors. I know for me, I go to school in DC, and that was one of the things that I was really looking forward to. So small things like campus culture, facilities, location can also make a difference. So really make sure that you are able to consider everything that's important to you. So each person has like their own set of things that they look forward to or that are important to them. So I would consider like the 5 main components that are important to you, whether it's like location or what programs they have and opportunities, and through that be able to narrow down which colleges you're interested in.
Yeah, so our next question is, if you could have done one thing differently throughout the college admissions process, what would it be? And this is targeted toward Daisy and Yi Chen.
Yeah, sure. I can take a first stab. So I think I'm actually just going to echo a lot of what Indali said about getting to know a campus or getting to know its students. I think one thing that I wish I had done is to try to get to know the school's social culture a little bit more. And I think this definitely applies, especially during like the process when you're choosing a college, when you're narrowing down the college that you want to go to, but also like the application process. I think for me, especially when I was visiting and choosing a college, I focus a lot on the academic programs, like size of the departments, like the recognition and things like that. And I kind of assumed that wherever I go, I would find a group of people that I would enjoy being with. And I think that's definitely true. But I think there are also some schools that fit each person more or less than others. And I do definitely have friends who didn't end up happy at their colleges of choice. And I think that's a little bit unfortunate. And so I think like I was almost asking a lot of the wrong questions by focusing a lot of my selection on purely the academic side. And honestly, for me, I think it really worked out. I do really, really like Pomona. And I think it's also really hard to get to know a school's social vibe before you get there for 4 years. But I would say like keep that in mind, especially in the choosing process, like try to get to know actual students, reach out to them about what they like about the school, how the social setting is, what they would describe as like the general culture or vibe. Most of us are really happy to actually email you back, even if you aren't able to visit, but also think about student organizations, different school centers. Most of us, again, would be actually happy to talk with you all. So I do encourage people to, and I wish I really had the chance to do this when I was planning to get a better understanding of what a school's cultural and social vibe is more like before applying, and not to just focus purely on the academic side.
I totally agree with Daisy, but mine's a little different. If I could change one thing, I would actually try to have more faith in myself during the whole college application process. I would try to trust my own judgment and then determine where I would be happy. I know some of us have college counselors, very aggressive parents, some of whom may already be in this Zoom, or even like peers who influence us. But I really highly recommend just like believing in yourself and applying to wherever you want to go, regardless of your statistics or Navians telling you that only like 3 students get in every year, but you know, like 20 other people are applying. At the end of the day, I know this is like a truism, but like it isn't emphasized enough during the college app process, I feel like, but you yourself have to believe that you're good enough before anyone else. Otherwise, you might sell yourself short or even regret your decisions, which I learned personally from like public speaking from MUN, just to, like really have faith in yourself. Yeah.
One other thing I would like to like ask is just like, what do you think you could have done differently, like, or like if you have any regrets just in high school in general, like things that you focused on that you shouldn't have, or stuff that you would have liked to do?
I actually wrote, this is kind of funny, I actually wrote my comment app on this, but I think this actually goes all the way back to what Vivov said at the very beginning, that I took a little bit more risks. I think, and also as Sydney also alluded to, at Lynbrook, there's definitely a mentality that, you know, whatever you want to do, you want to succeed at, and failure is not really an option. But I definitely do think that that really restricted me in trying out new things. And there were definitely opportunities that I had easy access to that I just didn't take because I wasn't sure, you know, if I would necessarily be good at it. So I wish I did more of that. I think it would have, you know, helped at least like gain a lot more confidence and knowledge of like what I wanted to do in the future. And I think it's just, you know, inevitably you want, I think generally for my own philosophy for life, like I don't want to, you know, keep on having regrets on what ifs. And I think that's just probably within the book, there were a lot of what ifs that I think, you know, I still think about right now.
Also, I know everyone talks about this, but definitely participate in homecoming as much as you can. I didn't participate in the girls' dance my senior year because I was like writing college apps. I totally regretted it. Definitely could have done both. Just do things that make you happy, and ultimately, like, there's nothing gonna be like homecoming ever again. For someone who goes to Chicago, who like we don't really have sports. Like, I really regret not going to lots more sports games. Yeah.
Yeah, to kind of just add on to that, I always thought that having a popping social life and being on top of your academic work is mutually exclusive, as in like you can only have one of the two, but that's definitely not the case. And just like as Daisy said, don't like limit yourself, don't pigeonhole yourself. Definitely use your 4 years to explore and just take risks.
If I could add something onto that, kind of being a dinosaur now, I think one thing a lot of us miss at Lynbrook, as well as in the Bay Area, from communities like ours, is how important it is to kind of go out and see the world. Especially if you think about recent events, I think there's a lot of, I think, comfort we feel in knowing about what the world is like, just being able to see what goes on through social media, through the news. And you realize in college that that's really not enough, right? That kind of just reading articles, having discussions within your own social circle, that doesn't take you very far. Model UN was one of those things that did take me to like Chicago, to other places, but also other things, right? Like finding an opportunity to help community in another city, in the United States, or just even traveling to get a sense of how other people live, how other people think. I think those are things that you can do, not just for your own college application, or not necessarily for your college application, but to feel more inspired by what is out there, what is beyond Lynbrook.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, to echo on some thoughts. I personally feel that I neglected a lot of my time with my family during the 4 years because I was so focused on academics and like trying to, get those extracurriculars and kind of pack a good college application. But then I ended up like looking back now, I could have done more to like spend more time with my family because that's one of the things that you don't get to do in the future, I guess. And yeah.
Cool. Okay. So our next question is like, how do you plan your summer program / projects? I think this is toward Maya and Sanjana, and I think like even broader, like how did you think the summer work helped you with your college applications?
Yeah, so I first want to say that these summer programs and projects should not just be for college and shouldn't just be to say that, oh, I really want to go into this prestigious program because this will help me get into college. I genuinely feel like everything that we do should be because one, we enjoy it, and like another one, we want to grow ourselves. So the summer programs that we choose shouldn't be something that like our parents force upon us, because I think that's very common at Lynbrook. You yourself should be willing to spend a few weeks at this program, and it should be like enjoyable for you. So also a lot of times at Lynbrook, we feel the need that we need to spend money on these like a lot of expensive summer programs in order to get into these good colleges. But colleges are only looking for like the fact that you're trying to use your summer and your time off from school to do something productive. So you can really do something that's almost equivalent of like a prestigious summer program basically for free. So I know for me, I did a lot of like service projects the summer before my senior year. I got rejected from all of my like the prestigious programs I applied to, but I ended up still having a meaningful summer. And yeah, so don't feel the need that don't say that like I got rejected from this prestigious summer program, so I'm never going to get into college. Like that's simply untrue.
I think also adding on to Maya, using your summer to kind of back up your stories how I saw it, because I think the entire college application process and like the entire college application is basically one whole story about your own life. And these summers are kind of like supporting evidence to that story. So basically don't feel obligated to go into like Cosmos or some kind of other prestigious programs like Maya said. Just try to do things that support that entire story and a package as a whole, and something that's meaningful to yourself. Also try to balance like having vacation time and also like time for working on something like related to college applications or school or whatever, because I feel that vacations are like really important also, because both for your mental health and like I guess you can also write about those experiences sometimes. Like personally, I wrote about this summer I went to Costa Rica, and it was simply a vacation, but being able to immerse myself with that like foreign language from school was really something that I felt was meaningful.
Yeah,
And
essentially.
also,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I guess I just want to add something minor. This is specifically like the summer before senior year. I know that this summer is when most people try to go for the most prestigious programs or do the biggest projects. But keep in mind that the summer is also a time that can be used to expand your own like academic interests as well. If you want to learn a new like coding language, or even just work on your college apps over the summer, keep in mind that's also an option as well.
Yeah, I agree. And like a lot of times we think that we're supposed to go into these programs because it's like the most stereotypical path towards college. But you can also do things like service projects or do whatever like continuation of projects from your year, any way that you can grow yourself, like seeking out community college classes and just things like that. They're a lot cheaper, and personally I feel like they have just as much impact as like a program, or even more impact than a program like Cosmos.
If I could say something, I know the other panelists have talked about a lot of different things that you can do. And one thing I want to stress is that what you do during your summer doesn't have to be academic actually at all. Because college admissions officers know that you're still a kid. They don't want you to see that you've planned your entire life out, like every detail during every summer, because that shows that you don't have room for growth if your plan doesn't go exactly according to how you want it. They have to see how you react to different things. I know a lot of juniors, at least, for this summer with COVID, they're going to have to start thinking of new ways to do different things that they might not have before. And really, it's more about how you grow during the summer than what academic thing you do. So something even as simple as helping your parents, let's say your mom does all the cooking or does all the chores in the house, and you decide that she's been doing it for like 20, 30 years almost, and you decide to start cooking twice, 3 times a week. See how that affects your relationship with your mom. How does it affect your family dynamic? And that's a story that college admissions officers would want to hear about you. Or you can read a new book and see how does it change you. You have to think about harder questions that the book presents. So just keep in mind what you do doesn't have to be academic. It should just tell a story. And honestly, in the essays that colleges ask you to write, maybe 1 or 2 will be academic. The others will be stories.
Yeah, just adding on to that, like so many people go to these programs, but what colleges want to hear is what you gained out of it, and sort of what Vibha wants basically saying that just talk about you and just do things for the sake of you rather than for college.
Yeah, so our final pre-written question is, how did you start service initiatives, really successful clubs, or 501c3 nonprofits? And I think this is directed at Jojo and Maya.
Yeah, so to give some context, throughout high school, I started my own like online jewelry shop and then an art for charity nonprofit, where like we didn't actually get it, like anyways, but basically we sold at craft fairs, flea markets, drew caricatures and things like that. I basically started buying jewelry parts and then like selling jewelry I made with those, and then taking that money to buy more samples until I could afford like wholesale orders. And then with the money I earned from that, I was able to cover like initial costs for the art organization before we started making money. So it's definitely possible to bootstrap a business in high school, but and a lot of people are going to be very willing to help you since you are a high schooler. I would say like the most important thing is to like learning to ask for help. Like for us, we got a lot of opportunities just from teachers at Lynbrook finding out about what we were doing and then suggesting that we try things out. You honestly like learn so much by trying to start something, but it's extremely time consuming, and like the time and effort you put into a small business or org isn't ever directly correlated to the results. So please don't start something just to write a sentence in your college apps, or like even if you just want to like earn money. To be completely honest, like if you can get away with not starting something completely new, you should take it. There's a lot of established clubs already at Lynbrook, like MUN, and there's like so many clubs dedicated to so many different interests, and it's always easier and like more productive to be building on top of like the initiatives, resources, and members that these clubs already have. And they also have like expertise for different things that you might want to do. But yes.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Jojo said. So for me, I didn't start a business, but I did Girl Scouts, and one of the biggest projects in Girl Scouts is your Gold Award. And I think it's comparable to like the Eagle Scout project for Boy Scouts. I'm not 100% sure, but essentially what you do for Girl Scouts is that you're supposed to create a sustainable project in your community, and you choose the topic that you want to address. So essentially like it's starts in 9th grade, where you brainstorm this idea on like what issue you feel is most pressing in your community. And then you try to establish a system that can sustain itself for a long period of time, that's dedicated to fixing this issue. So that's definitely something that not only is, people don't just do it for a college application process, as Jojo mentioned. When you're trying to start these things, really try to go into it, and instead of like, just trying to start things for the sake of starting it, make sure that this initiative is something that you truly care about if you're starting it. And if you can do something like relating to the community that's very similar to something that's already existing, then you can just use that and build off on that, because like colleges already know what's out there pretty much.
And I guess I can talk about sort of the Boy Scout part of things, because I've done the Eagle Scout project. And I guess my advice for that is I know a lot of Boy Scouts build like a bench, like a planter box. And I'm sure colleges have seen all of those. So maybe even if you do want to do that, do a project that is not necessarily easy, but something that has meaning behind it. So
I think
Yeah.
so Jojo mentioned that you don't have to have like a completely new idea, and something that's like really useful for people who have like can want to mitigate that added pressure of trying to come up with a new idea and starting something new is that you can always like piggyback off of other organizations that exist. So for example, I founded a chapter of this organization nonprofit called Paper Airplanes at our school, and we basically just kind of formed up a subset of that. So you really don't need to have a completely new idea. You can always just find what you're passionate about, and having a parent organization is really helpful in the sense that it also helps you kind of share the ideas between both organizations. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Sydney also mentioned in another question is you should go beyond like what's in your comfort zone. So when you start a service initiative, what a lot of people at Lynbrook do, because it's very comfortable for them, they tutor people for free. They become a star tutor. And I think that's definitely great, but I also think it's important to go out to communities that you're not that familiar with. So for example, like Larry said, people just like build planter boxes. You can talk with people in your community who are like facing real problems, who are facing homelessness. These are people you wouldn't really talk to on a regular basis. But like when I did that for my Gold Award project, it gave me a new perspective. So that's something that I feel like colleges not only appreciate, but it's also really changed. Like it impacts you when you do the project itself. Like you're not just doing it for college, you're also changing and gaining new perspectives as you're doing this community service.
yeah, and not to discredit any project, but like anyone can do like any project basically if they put enough time and effort into it. What makes it different is the meaning you assign behind it and sort of what you gain and grow from it. So just keep that in mind while doing those.
Yeah, cool. So that concludes our pre-submitted questions portion of this panel. So I'll be sending out a Zoom poll for the next 1 minute. You guys can vote on which idea you guys would like to do. So we have two options. So either a small discussion group, so we'll be splitting the panelists into breakout rooms, and you'll be able to talk to the panelists on a smaller scale, or we'll be speaking with large panel and we'll unmute you if you raise your hand to ask questions. So we'll give you about 1 minute to vote. Cool. Okay, so large panel wins by a large margin. So how this is going to work is if you have a question, just raise your hand using the Zoom raise your hand feature. It should be in the participants page. If you don't know how to do that, send me a private message, and then we'll have panelists answer whichever questions. We'll unmute whoever raises their hand. Okay. Cool. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand. Okay, so Eric.
Volunteer hours in music programs. So basically, I know Daisy's little brother Oliver, who's currently a sophomore, and like he used to do piano, and like Daisy and then she also did piano. So like, how did it help the college? Like, did it contribute to anything like for the college writing process?
Sure, I can speak to this. So I will say, I think honestly, it really depends on how and what music, like how you use music and what music means to you. Um, I think for me, I did actually manage to incorporate piano into my college application. So a lot of colleges actually allow you to send supplemental videos or whatever kind of like independent project kind of things. I sent a video for that, but also in high school, I was volunteering with a program that allowed me to work with children with disability and teach and help teach piano. And so that was, for me, was kind of a way to express and use my music skills in a more I guess like community service way as opposed to just playing for myself. So I think for me, it was something that I was able to use. I will say also for probably a lot of people, it's totally fine, I think, if music is just something for yourself. I think that's, you know, as long as it has meaning for you, I don't think that it means that you shouldn't, I don't think that it means that you should stop doing it, even if it doesn't contribute entirely to your college application. But I also will be real. I think I also play bassoon in the orchestra, and I honestly, genuinely think that probably did have an impact on my college application. So I think it's also be cognizant, I think, overall of the way that you are playing music. I think if it, like, if you do want to impact the community, I think there are ways of doing that. But I also think for a lot of my friends also in college, a lot of them tell me that they kind of regret giving up piano and other instruments because they genuinely enjoyed playing it, and you know, they didn't want, and they felt like they had to give it up because of time constraints or perceptions of whether it will help in the college process, which led them to drop these instruments. But ultimately they do, like, you know, music is something that's meaningful to yourself, not just for the college process. I hope that answered the question, but let me know if it doesn't.
So this next question is from Lawrence Louie. How does Lynbrook prepare them in college? And also, since they're in college now, do you guys study more in college or more at Lynbrook? Like, did you spend more of your time studying at Lynbrook or more of your time studying in college?
I can answer this. I have very strong thoughts about this. I personally believe that Lynbrook does not focus on humanities as much as it should, and I definitely study way more in college. Maybe that's unique to UChicago, but I feel like UChicago's culture specifically is a very like work hard culture where you spend many, many hours in the library. I think if that fits you, you should definitely apply. But I would say that like you need to foster good study habits in high school and not just do the minimum to get by, not just for like college apps, but for yourself, because college is a lot harder than what people tell you. A lot of people are just like, oh, it's super fun. There are a lot of parties and stuff like that. It is, but the academics, I would say, are also a lot more tough. Yeah.
And just before we move on to the next question, when you send me questions, if you could include your grade so that the panelists know a little bit more about you, so they can help you tailor your answer. So the next question is from, I don't know who this person is, but how useful would Cosmos be in a college application, even with all the different clusters, and is it worth applying to?
So I can answer this as someone who's gone to Cosmos. I definitely don't think Cosmos is worth it, especially if you're not like 100% set on what you want to do. So Cosmos itself, the program is selective and it's hard to get into, especially if you're younger and like if you're in 9th grade. But when you actually get there, it's not intensive and you do have a final project, but it's much more for the sake of saying that you got into the program rather than having a meaningful something that you learned during your time there. It's not that rigorous, and I definitely think that the money especially isn't worth it, especially because like a lot of people who go there either like have extreme financial aid or they're people like us. So I definitely think that there are better uses to use like the summer for. You can gain just as much knowledge with something else that's not a program.
Yeah, so I can also chime in on this because I also attended Cosmos before. I think like Maya said, it's not too intensive. I think I spent more time, like I had way more free time than I had actual instructional time. And if there's a cluster that's really in line with what you want to do, go for it, because you definitely have opportunities to learn. You get to interact with the faculty of a UC, like UC professors about a certain topic, and that can potentially lead to a rec letter as well. I guess, sort of echoing what Maya said, like if you really want to learn, then I think there are other programs or other opportunities for that.
The next question is from Kirsten, who's a rising 9th grader, asking if ASB affected their lives in college and high school and like the college applications process for anyone who did ASB.
I didn't do ASB specifically, but I was involved with student government as a class officer for 2 years. I would say the general thing, the general way to think about things in high school is to think about what you get out of them as a person, as opposed to how they might look right on the application. I would say that goes for most things you would have a choice of doing in high school. So I wouldn't really look at like ASB or my participation in class office necessarily as like, you know, something that helped or hurt just because I had that kind of line right on my application. But I think it really did teach me how to lead a large crowd of people, communicate with a large crowd of people, how to work as part of a team towards a really important goal, like homecoming. So kind of as Daisy alluded to with playing the piano and playing the bassoon, it's more in how you apply those skills later, right? After you leave ASB and join another club or start your own project, that matters, and how you carry those skills and continue developing, as opposed to the specific things in particular that you might do as a class officer or an ASB.
I guess like I can also add on to this. I was in ASB my senior year, and I was an ASB officer. And I think as similar as what Sydney said, a lot of the skills are transferable, and that's like what should be the main focus. A lot of the things that you do learn, the experiences you get, I think are the most important in terms of the output you get from these experiences. I think also sometimes there are things you can learn. So for me, I was an ASB officer, but that was since I was part of the board of trustees. And I think that experience in specific allowed me to gain that interest in the government, and as a result kind of pivoted my direction towards going towards DC and what I want to pursue. So I think a lot of the things that you might gain or the skills that you might start to acknowledge within yourself might also gain towards what your interests could be later on in life.
So our next question is from Katie Chen, who's a current junior, and she's asking if you guys have any advice on choosing majors or being undeclared / declaring a major going into college applications, and if there are any places where you're good places to find scholarships during the college admissions process.
Yeah, so I can answer this question. Going in, I wasn't really sure, like even now, I'm not really sure exactly what major I want to do. There are a lot of colleges that offer different types of majors. There's some that offer interdisciplinary majors. And I think through MUN, I realized that like economics and public policy is something that I want to pursue regardless of what like my parents have told me. And finding a major that incorporated that as well was important for me. So another thing you can also look towards is a lot of schools don't require you to declare your major until the end of your freshman or sophomore year. So as long as you have like the credits, you're able to choose that major. And that's a big reason why I preferred those schools that admitted you on the basis of the entire college rather than like having those select programs that you couldn't transfer between. So I guess like choosing those colleges is a bonus if you're not 100% sure.
I agree with.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I agree with Maya. Even if you feel like you're 100% sure, for example, I thought like ever since I was in elementary school, I wanted to be a lawyer. I went into university thinking I was going to be a lawyer. I applied as a philosophy major. And then within the first year and the second year, I switched between like 5 different majors. I would say that I'm very thankful that I decided to go to U Chicago, somewhere it was very flexible to change your major and to double major or even triple major. I think in college, you experience so many new things outside of this like Silicon Valley bubble that really changes your perspective on what you want to do for like the next like 40 years of your life, or at least like during your 20s. So like with that in mind, you shouldn't be bound by, I know like a lot of these like programs where they have dedicated majors are very like give you a lot of incentive to join, but I would say just keep an open mind because you never know what you will encounter in college that may you change between like such a drastic shift. For example, like now I'm really interested in quantitative finance, which is very different from pre-law, I would say.
Yeah,
Sorry.
actually, I'm just going to jump on that. I totally agree with what Yichen said. I actually, like, the only reason that I actually chose Pomona in the end between another school I was considering because I wanted somewhere that was a little bit more well-rounded. I entered college thinking I was going to be IR mostly, honestly, because I really enjoyed that sphere when I was in Model UN. And honestly, I ended up with philosophy, politics, economics, which is genuinely not that far off from IR or what it would allow me to do. But I think still keeping your options open, just in case, because college does open up a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different interests, so just be prepared for that possibility. And also, I would say a lot of colleges have like why majored pages on their website. I would recommend checking those out. And also keep in mind things like if you want to study abroad, or if you want to double major, have a minor, take into account which majors are a little bit more time intensive and which majors would allow you a little bit more flexibility when you're thinking about that as well.
Our next question is from Aria, who's a rising 9th grader, and I'm gonna mute her.
Oh, I was just saying, what was your hardest class at Lynbrook? Which like classes should I avoid?
Well, I'll go ahead and say that there shouldn't be a class necessarily that you should avoid just because of the difficulty. For me, I wouldn't say I'm too strong with STEM classes. So chemistry honors, it wasn't even AP Chem. Chem honors was the hardest class for me. Nothing will beat the academic rigor of that class. I would say even college classes I find easier than that class. But definitely, I learned so many new study skills and just habits out of that class. So yeah, don't let the rigor of a class deter you from actually taking it.
I think a lot of classes, the difficulty often depends on which teacher you receive. So that shouldn't really deter you from taking it. If you think that a concept, and talk to previous students as well, if you think that the concepts you might learn are interesting and you can handle the course load and that you'll be able to do decently well in the class, then you should go for it.
And then very quickly, like just in general, like no class should be easy if you really want to learn the subject. So I just want to add that.
Yeah, actually jumping in, I also think something that I've learned from college is like genuinely, this isn't always the case, but some of my hardest classes are the ones that are the most rewarding. And so I think for me in high school, like APUSH, APLAC, those were pretty hard classes, but that require a lot of time. But I think also the classes I genuinely enjoyed the most.
And then just a reminder before we move on to the next question, you can either text me through the Zoom chat or you can just raise your hand and I'll let you ask your question as soon as possible. We're doing it chronologically, so if you feel like your question has been answered, it's because we have a bunch of other questions in the queue. Okay, so our next question is from, hold on. Our next question is from Akshara. So she's a rising sophomore. Her first question is, did you guys have a dream college? And did it affect what classes you took in high school? And then the second question is like, what are your general thoughts on community college courses and self-studying APs?
I can answer this question. I did have a dream college, and I think this is a great lesson for not putting too much weight or expectation on your dream college. my dream college was Yale. I did not end up going to Yale. And I think when it comes to the college applications process, it's always good to be kind of hopeful and optimistic while also realistic, right? About where you want to go, what you want out of the 4 years of college. But at the end of the day, I think applying to college is as much of a process of you being selected, right? For colleges selecting which people to kind of join their class, as well as kind of pairing up with the right college for you. So I wouldn't necessarily work towards a certain college or a certain type of college in terms of the classes you take or the work you do. I would instead kind of like figure out what your passion is. I know that's a very vague idea, right? But what makes you tick? What is going to get you up in the mornings? What the thing is that you want to study, right, for the next 4 to 5 years is going to be during high school, and use that kind of as a way to figure out where to apply and what kind of college would serve your interests the best.
I think also to target the latter half of the question, for AP tests and self-studying them, I don't recommend them because I did self-study 3 AP tests in junior year, and I ended up learning a lot, but I felt like I did worse on those AP tests compared to the ones that I actually took at school, because I feel like personally I'm not that accountable for when I'm self-studying something versus when there's a teacher telling you that you have a test or a quiz. And yeah.
I just wanted to jump in really quick. I got rejected from my dream college, and it was very heartbreaking at first. But I guess I think this is an optimistic way to put it, but I think everything happens for a reason. If a college rejects you, don't look at it as a reason, or don't look at it in a way that you think it's like because you're not good enough or anything like that. It's because you're genuinely not the right fit. So even if you got accepted, you wouldn't be happy at that college. So yeah, that's just more, I guess, optimistic way to put it. So yeah, definitely go for your dream school, but don't be too upset when you get rejected.
And also adding one more thing about community college courses. I guess if you want to take community college courses and be dual enrolled, like at West Valley or De Anza, keep in mind that those classes take time as well, like a lot of time. So if you're thinking of taking multivariate, make sure that you do it at a time where like you can manage that and everything else you're doing.
Just a heads up before we move on to the next question. We're going to try to answer as many questions as possible. So this panel will probably go, it's already gone over our 3 p.m. end time, but if you guys do want to keep staying, we'll be continuing answering questions until we run out of questions. So the next question is from Zara Hussein, who's a rising sophomore, but this is her first, or this is their first year at Lynbrook. And then they were asking, do you think I can still succeed at a club even though I'm joining later than other people?
Yes, for sure. Like, honestly, don't worry too much about, I know like something I heard when I was in Lynbrook a lot was, oh, like you have to stay with a certain activity for 4 years because it shows dedication and like blah, blah, blah. But honestly, at the end of the day, like if you're too focused on that, then you'll just end up staying in something that you like don't enjoy. If you came to Lynbrook later, like just get involved with the activities that you want to do, and then honestly it's going to end up fine. Like don't worry too much about like positions or anything like that. And yeah, like it's really not a worry. You're going to
for reference, I joined MUN in my sophomore year. I actually hadn't even wanted to join in freshman year, but then I realized how wrong I was sophomore year, and so I stuck with it. And I became a class officer and joined mock trial in senior year. So really you can join whenever, it's just how much effort you put into it.
Yeah, so our next question is from Daniel Wang. He's a current 9th grader. How important was your SAT score in your college applications? And do you think colleges going test neutral or like not requiring tests will affect your college applications?
Just one thing for the second half of the question. I read something over the past few weeks for the upcoming classes and how the SAT and ACT canceling is going to affect them. Many of the people are saying it's actually a positive thing because apart from like the applicant pool, because you're going to have less international students and also like a lot of less domestic applicants because of the economic situation right now with the coronavirus. So apart from that fact, like your extracurriculars and your essays are probably going to be playing a much more important role in your college application because of the test scores not really being taken into account. So that's just one thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I think personally, test scores, like up to a certain point, don't matter that much. Like a 10-point increase in the SAT, like no one really cares. And I think, like Sanjana said, like even right now, the biggest part of college admissions is, of course, essays and your presentation of yourself.
Yeah. Even when you prepare for the SAT, they don't actually test you on things that it's more of a test to test your ability on test taking. So yeah, for sure, no matter if it's included or not, your SAT isn't going to be the most important factor, and your extracurriculars and essays will tell the story better than that.
Yeah, actually, sorry, just one quick thing. I think a lot of colleges, and there's this trend nationally that is going toward de-emphasizing standardized tests like the SATs, which is, I think, a good thing, and trying to eliminate sources of inequity in the college admissions process. And we have a lot of schools, I think, at least for this year also, are getting rid of the SAT requirement, especially during coronavirus, and using this as a jumping start to do that for the future. And I think Pomona is actually one of those schools. And so I think for these schools, especially when they say that test scores are optional, I think like really take that to heart, because they wouldn't have this policy unless they actually cared about real, like actually making things fair. And so I would generally say, like, don't feel like you really, you know, an optional thing is a mandatory, is actually not optional. I think they are genuinely optional. So think about what you would rather spend with your time.
Yeah, so our next question is from Valerie Ang. So she's an incoming 9th grader. What are certain resources that students should take more advantage of on campus in high school?
I personally think like really getting to know your teachers and talking to them, either like asking for help during tutorial or just like learning about like them and their like what they've seen, like introducing yourself, telling them what you want to do, and then getting their feedback on it, I think is pretty helpful. They've seen a lot of students like go by throughout the years, and like they've seen pretty much students that wanted to pursue like a bunch of different career paths. So I think like using them as a resource is really important.
I think one of the most undervalued, but I think the most important resource that I had at Lynbrook, it's underestimated, but it's the College and Career Center. And the two people who work there, Ms. Takahashi and Ms. Tang, can answer probably any question you can think of, college related or elsewhere. And another thing is that they have a lot of opportunities that they tell you about. So just pop in every tutorial every other week or so and just get to know them. And if they like you, which they hopefully will, they'll let you know about different opportunities to get involved in contests, summer programs, and different things. So I think all of those people, even if your parents think that you need to go get a private counselor, I would advise against it, honestly. And I did have a private counselor, but Ms. Takahashi and Ms. Tang helped me a lot more. And so just go speak to them when you get to Lynbrook and build a relationship with them.
So our next question is from Zara Hossein, who's an incoming sophomore. This is specifically toward Yi-Chen. How did you gain self-confidence when applying to college?
I would not say I did while I was applying to college. I think I was just overwhelmed with a lot of different things. I was lucky enough to have a college counselor, but that also kind of backfired because I would just like listen to exactly what he said and then take everything he said to heart. He's like, you need to apply to this college because you have 80% chance of getting in, and I highly advise you do this. Otherwise, you're wasting your shot. And then I would like take that into account. and not really think much about it. So I would say like really trust yourself. Talk to the, it kind of goes back to the last question, which is like, talk to the alumni of Lynbrook. I never realized like the extent of like the Lynbrook alumni network until I got out of high school, but really talk to people who currently attend the colleges that you want to go to, and then really ask them about what they feel like is their experience there, especially people maybe who have similar desires and similar career path as the one you want to pursue. But I don't know, if I could like go back in time until like junior year or senior year me, like one thing, it would just be like really just like believe in yourself. You can do it. You're special. Your story is like no other. Yeah, basically that.
So our next question is from Sean Wang, who's a rising junior. How much did you actually talk to your like the Lynbrook College counselors, and did you really get anything out of them? So I'm assuming it's like Miss Dang, Miss Goldstein, and the third one.
Yeah, so I talked to Miss Dang quite a lot. One thing that I will say is that those counselors, all of the counselors that we're assigned to, they have so many students. So a lot of the advice might be general and not specific enough because they're not really sure on like what exactly we want to do, and they don't know us as well as I would say like we'd like them to. But I definitely think that they help a lot, and they're going to give a lot of advice. And as Yuchen said, like you should have confidence in yourself, and like I think you know more about yourself and what you want to do in the future. So definitely like take their advice, but also take it with a grain of salt and ask the people who know you better, and don't just like rely on the school counselor, even though it definitely can help.
So the next question is from Abhinav Ganesh, who's a rising junior. How important do you guys think APs are in the college admissions process?
Like, I know those people who take like AAPs for the sake of having that award. And I think that generally, like, although APs are a demonstration of like your knowledge in a certain subject, I wouldn't like weight them that heavily. I think AAPs, their main purpose is for college credit and for, I don't know, like making your college time easier, like in my opinion.
I actually ended up being one of those people and being like really shallow about getting like the National AP Award thing. And in the end, like looking back now, I think it's really stupid of me to do that. And like, also, I feel like I did learn a lot from those classes, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to like me being overwhelmed and not being able to balance everything. And so I definitely highly don't recommend it. Don't be shallow like me.
Wait, also, I just wanted to add on to that, and I think they got rid of the National AP Scholar thingamajig. So I don't think you can get that anymore, like starting this year.
Adding on to the college credit thing, speaking from a perspective of like from Berkeley's perspective, which I think like for the UCs, you get the most credit out of your AP credits. Like it doesn't help that much if you have like 60 credits or something. Like it doesn't help that much if you go overboard, because at the end of the day, you still have to take the classes you need to graduate. So honestly, it doesn't help that much with that.
Okay, just to add on, but like if your parents do make you take like all the APs like mine did, I would suggest maybe just take as few classes as possible. For example, I took 4 classes in high school in my senior year, and that was like really nice to get out before lunch. And like I could manage 4 APs because I only took 4 classes. Yeah.
I do kind of want to offer a separate perspective here on APs. I think you definitely shouldn't kill yourself with the APs. Like taking 8 APs, 10 APs, as the previous panelists have mentioned, really isn't the way to do it. It is a way of pushing yourself, though. It is a way of kind of showing the college that you're willing to challenge yourself. Obviously, when the challenges make sense, right? At the same time, you should be taking APs in areas that you think could actually really help you in college, that you do want to dive deeper in. If you want to like study political science or philosophy in college, AP biology really isn't going to help you that much unless you have a particular interest in that area. So keep that in mind, but also like do know that coming from a place like Lynbrook, APs do demonstrate a bit of something about what you'll be like.
So this is a question that kind of connects with the previous question. Do you think like self-studying APs are actually beneficial? Does it help you stand out in any way?
I think
This is from Navia Anand.
Yeah, I think self-studying APs helps, especially if you're the APs that you're self-studying for are related to your story and like what you've been doing in the background. For example, like as Sydney mentioned, if you've been doing like extracurriculars, then in like poli-sci, I don't think like self-studying AP bio is really necessary. But if you can, like for example, if you're really interested in studying like economics in college, then self-studying some of the AP economics for the AP economics tests might be useful.
I guess I have a kind of differing opinion. So I'm currently majoring in economics, and I did not self-study micro or macroeconomics, and the AP Econ courses are not offered at Lynbrook. So if I had the chance, I would have probably studied for them, but I definitely don't think it's necessary. For UCLA, at least, the only benefit you get from self-studying AP macro and microeconomics would be getting credit for them, but I can easily just take them at my college. So yeah, it's definitely not necessary to self-study for APs.
Yeah, I didn't really self-study for much APs either. So yeah, it's like not necessary, but I guess if it helps rather than hurts.
Okay, so the next question is from Shayan Ganguly, who's a rising sophomore, and this is specifically toward Amol. How did you start working with mental health, and like, what do you think was super beneficial from it?
Yeah, so I initially started working with a specific like 501c3 that I found really interesting. They had like online, they had posted for volunteers, and so I had like come across this thing, and so I had initially applied to become like a volunteer with them, and then as I started volunteering with them more and more, so I got more involved, and then took up more roles within the nonprofit. And so from there kind of began like all of the work that I started to do. And so I think that it's the main way that you can go about this is, so there's two main ways I would say. One is you go with like an existing body that's already doing work, and you go and like start out as a volunteer and figure out ways, if you really enjoy it and think it's really important, to move up and get more involved. Another way is to go and start your own 501c3, which Jojo talked about earlier on. With starting your own like projects. But for me, it was the former route. And I think that, you know, having a environment where everything is kind of set up, like the legal structure is taken care of, and I can just go out and do the interventions that I really hope for and wanted to do, was really important for me. So that's why I went with the former.
Okay, great. So that pretty much concludes our Q&A panel. So I don't think we have any more questions. So I just wanted to thank all of you for attending this opportunity. We encourage all of you, if you want to communicate with all of the panelists afterwards, you can check out our Lynbrook MUN Instagram, and we have all of them tagged in their bios. So if you want to ask them specific questions, you can always DM them if they're willing to talk to you. And then I would also encourage all of you to go fill out our feedback form for this alumni panel. We're always looking for you guys to give us some feedback so we can improve future opportunities for both our members and just Lynbrook students in general. So if you want to go check out bit.ly/LHS-MUN feedback, that would be amazing. It's a pretty short form just about what you've thought about this experience. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So again, thank you guys so much for coming. And do any of the panelists have anything they want to say before we wrap up?
Feel free to reach out to, I think, like any of us if you have further questions. Yeah, we're happy to answer them.
Also, like, just to add on to that, like, I was really like shy about reaching out to alumni about their experiences, but everyone loves talking about themselves. So like, please do reach out. Like, don't be shy about it.
Yeah, people will feel like they've been validated. If you reach out to them, they'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
I also want to like say, if you have any questions for like any universities in like it's called the DMV area, but it's like the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. It's not the DMV you're probably thinking of. But if you do have any questions, you can let me know, since like I know that we don't always have as many Lynbrook students that go to a lot of those universities in that area. So if you have questions regarding them, I can probably like connect you with someone who does go to university there. So remember, you can like always reach out.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. This meeting was recorded, so we will be publishing both like a full recording online if you ever want to go back and see the answers. And we'll also be published a shortened, edited version that will go over like the key things that we covered today. Okay, thank you guys so much for coming. You guys are all free to leave. If you guys do have any questions, you can stay behind. And yeah.